Welcome to Mixed Media Creations with me, Creative Katie, Karen Burchill. Today's video is a Final Friday Planner collaboration video, so check the links in the description box below to the other collaborator videos. Hit the subscribe button and make sure that you have selected the option to be notified of as soon as I upload the next video. Here's a sneak peek of week 1 planner spread. I love how it turned out. Links to supplies can be found in the description box below. After a month of using my classic size planner, I absolutely love it. I'm finding that there is more than enough room to put whatever planning I need to put. I'm also loving my bookmarks that I've created, and you'll see me create again. But what I'm doing with these, once they're done with, I am just going to use the arcs or the discs and compile them in a little bit of a book. Now right now it's kind of flimsy, but in a while that's going to fill up. Now these are from the ARC system, that's from Staples, and they work just the same as the Happy Planner ones. So you have options to buying, and I find them a little bit more money. So the color scheme is the same, and I'm going to create these bookmarks again. Now these were something that I bought from Staples, and here's a sneak peek of the ones that I've created for this month. And if you're interested in that, that is around minute 21 of the video. The first 20 minutes are doing the 5 weeks of planner spreads. Now I noticed that in the 18-month planner, they did not vary the color scheme at all. So that's why we have the same color scheme. So if you're buying it, that might be something to watch for if that matters to you. But once we start 2018, they do. Now this month I decided to turn my planner on its side and have the top. I'm going to put a color banner at the top and then set it up so that I will write it on the side. I just think that might work really well. And you'll see that that's going to present some interesting challenges to overcome. So in preparation, I grabbed my jelly prints, I grabbed my flower embellishments because there's a kind of a floral theme going, my stamps, my stencils that are flowers, and other embellishments that fit the color scheme that I'm going with. So first things first, I'm going to set up the banners for all the weeks. Now this flower is something that I colored with my big brush markers, and what I did, this came from this Zenspiration book, coloring book, which I've had for over 1.5 years and have not used because, you know, I need to save it for that special occasion. But I decided, you know what, with my planner, one of the things that I'm using is use my stash. So I simply put a coat of gel medium on the paper and let that dry, and then I was able to color on and blend with my finger to color the flower. And I think this is something that I'm going to do more of. In fact, I've ordered another coloring book of a different focal image that I can use in my planners or on my art journal or mixed media spreads or canvases. So I'm just using gel medium to glue this down, but you can use a glue stick. I just prefer the gel medium. But with anything, when you're adding liquid to a paper, you're adding moisture, you need to make sure, be aware to dry it quickly so that it doesn't warp your page. I just love this idea of using the coloring book, and it just adds such a nice pop of color to this planner spread. So I'm pulling out some of the jelly prints and brayered papers that I created in this color scheme, or that I have in my stash for this colored scheme. And I really like the colors of this one, but because it's on deli paper, I haven't really used it. So I get out my cutter and I just cut some of these banners. Now last month I made some curvy papers, and this is in there, and I thought, you know what, why does it have to be straight? So I'm just cutting this brayered paper. It was on an old music seat, which is very fragile, which is kind of why it ripped. And I'm just going to have a curve there. Now with this gel print, what I decide, if I'm going to have a curve there, I'm just going to cut this and keep the curve. I'm curious as to how this is going to work being on deli paper. But that's one of the things that I promised you with my planner videos, is to test out new things and let you know, well, does it work? Does it not work? So I have some curvy ones and some straight ones, and I'm just going to alternate them in the weeks. I'm just kind of setting it up for myself so that I know which one's going where, so I can keep it all straight. And that's one of the challenges when you do multiple weeks at the same time. But I'm just doing that for the purpose of the video. So I glued this down again with gel medium and did that off camera. This one I'm doing on camera because it's a little bit different. Now I expected it to be a little bit finicky putting it down because it's so thin, and I did get a few wrinkles, but all in all I really like it, and I think that's something that I may use more of. Things that are stamped on deli paper or colored on deli paper, and using that in the planner, because I really like, and it doesn't add much bulk to your planner at all. So I have the other half of this flower that I cut, and you just, as a mixed media artist, you just simply can't throw anything out. So I just cut it a little bit smaller and decide to frame this week, put this at the bottom. So I'm just shaping the petals so that it fits and it doesn't take up too much of my planning space. But I know that I usually have more than enough, so I'm not too worried that it's taking up some of the planner space. I love the pops of color. That just makes me happy when I'm planning in my planner. And I just edged it. I drew back the black with my pit brush pin in black. And just making sure that everything dried before I apply any other medium, just in case it starts to smudge. It's easier to take that one little step. And I'm just wrapping my gel medium brush in saran wrap so that instead of throwing it in water, because I'm doing multiple pages and I'm going to be grabbing for it again and again and again. As you can see, I have my Distress Oxides out, and the color Fired Brick works fairly closely to this. It's a little more red, but I definitely have red on this spread. And I found a little flower stamp in and amongst all my various stamps. I think this was a Bow Bunny stamp, and it came with sentiments and then these flowers. And I'm just stamping and rubbing off. I'm not covering the entire area because it would be a little too big. That's one of the challenges with the smaller classic size. You're somewhat limited for space. So here I have some sticker labels and that were colored, and I thought, okay, that's kind of more the orangey tone, and I'm just cutting it off. And I find that if I peel the backing off and then cut it, it's just so much easier. You don't want to start peeling off the backing with this little tiny thing. And then I remember I have my pit brush markers, and one of the uses of those is to color right onto the stamps. And so this is a little bit more red, but I like that. So I'm using the same stamp on the other side. And that's pretty much the end of week 1. So week 2, I have this darker red color, and I noticed the curves at the top, or the darker red color. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself. And I'm just mixing the paint. Now, when it's a gel print, one of the problems is you have to remember what colors you've used in combinations. And there you see me auditioning stencils, and once I've mixed the paint the color I want, I just masked off the side of the stencil and I'm applying it with the Ranger felt applicator that I put onto my own recycled, repurposed stamp. Now there you can see I've made a mistake. I didn't mask off the bottom so it goes down into that part. So I'm just letting that sit. I'm thinking, does that bother me enough? So lesson learned, I'm going to mask off the top and the bottom this time. And do the same here. So I've done the red, and then I put a little bit of the copper. That brings that little bit of orange into the page. Being very careful though. This masking tape, to prevent this from sticking, what I could have done is take the tape and rub it against my shirt or my pants so it gets a little fuzzy and it's not quite as sticky. So I decide, okay, I'm going to mask this off now and just put solid color there. So it kind of at least frames it. And then I'm going, okay, I didn't go far enough on that side. So as you can see, I mean, a lot of it is trial and error. So I like that better. What I could have done to make it match, I could have done the same to the other side. And I didn't. I didn't realize that till I'm watching the video now. So I'm taking some of the labels that I applied color to, and I believe these were clear labels, and I'm just hole punching in them. And this is going to be kind of for a tracker or a list maker. It's just my way of having that, and it adds color to the page. Then I found this stencil with the dots, and I masked off, so I just have 3 dots, and using the same color, I'm just putting paint through the stencil. Now, don't press down too hard on the makeup sponge or felt applicator or whatever you're using, because it will go under the stencil. But I really like how we have dots on the one side and dots on the other side. So it kind of makes the whole page cohesive beyond just the same colors being used. Then I get out my Sakura Jelly Roll pen, and this is kind of in a gold copper, and I'm just outlining very quickly. I know this is sped up here about 3 times, but I really did not go slowly. I went quite quickly, you know, inside of the colored part. So this one has curves. Now, in the past videos, I've used the colored reinforcements as kind of the bullets. But of course, with the smaller squares in the classic planner, I couldn't use a full-size one. And then it dawned on me that I could cut them in half. And so now we have kind of this loop-de-loop look, which matches the curve at the top, which is just a happy coincidence in the ideas. So, you know, I love it. Now, can you spot my mistake? Despite me setting it up and trying really hard to keep all my weeks straight, if you look, you can see that I have the 13th and then the 21st. So I've mixed up the pages. So I'm using a stamp and my fired brick and just putting the flowers through the middle. And I just love how light and airy that page turned. So when I realized my mistake, I ended up with now having 2 pages with the same body of planner. And now the top here, the colors don't quite seem to match because the bottom has a little bit more orange in it. So I just decided I'm going to mask that off and just add a little bit of orange to it, right? Just because you start with a jelly print doesn't mean it has to stay exactly the same. You can always stencil on it or add interest in any way, shape, or form you decide. So doing this one, I decided, since this is the last week in September and there's a high potential that we will be flying home to visit family, I decided that I'm going to use this Roots of Love Stampendous stamp. I absolutely love this one, so never ups. I'm always quite happy to use it. And I decided to, again, to use my big brush markers, and I just put a couple colors on there and then stamp down below. And there's hearts in that tree, so I decided that, you know, this one, even though there's flowers, I am going to kind of go with a heart theme and love and family. And that's the joy of doing your own planner spreads, because you can do whatever. So instead of a flower stamp for the bullets, I'm using a heart stamp. And what you've seen me do is I just put the ink from the big brush marker on my work mat, and I dip into there and basically made my own stamp pad. So these hearts I've had in my stash. So I thought it's a perfect color, so I'm going to use that. Now when you're doing the planner spreads, it's important to try to keep your work mat clean, because you're putting your pages against it. And if that matters to you, you're going to be a little bit more careful. Then to tie it into the flower theme, I stamped with flowers. So I wanted to add a sentiment to the banner of each week spread. And so I pulled out from my stash, I have them all in a bin there. I also have a binder with my quotes in it, and you've seen that before. So I'm just looking at the quotes, and I'm trying to match the font to the feel of the page, to the size, to the boldness, just different, as well as the sentiment, if there's something that's going on in the page or a theme has developed, like on the last one with the family and love. I love in these bigger spaces I can use bigger fonts and have a bigger sentiment, and that just gives some variety to my planner and gives overall interest to it. And I just go around with my pit brush pen and then some gold, because I've got gold in most of the banners. So you can leave the sentiments, you know, you can block them off and leave them like that. Sometimes I think that that has a little too much white, and I like to fussy cut some of them and then have some variety. So you have some that are blocked, some that are cut around, different fonts, and that really personalizes the overall look. Now these are printed out on paper that is about double the weight of copy paper. I don't know what the weight of it is, but it holds up to water better than copy paper. But if that's what you have, use that. Just adding a little bit of black here, just to tie it all together. And that's so you see me just trying and, you know, kind of auditioning all the different sentiments and seeing which one I like. And it's a judgment call. I try to go fairly quickly when I'm doing that, and I kind of go with my gut instinct. There is no right or wrong. I'm going for variety, you know. So each banner looks a little bit unique. And that's one of the joys of being able to do it yourself, because you can totally make each one unique. So this one was kind of family, because potentially we will be traveling to visit family that week, and because it's deli print below and it has so much white, I decided that I wanted to back it with some colored paper, and in this case I used stickers that I already had colored for the purposes of using in the planner. and that just made it pop a little bit. And here I took the sentiment and I moved part of it into the body of the planner page, and that totally works. You know, you can do whatever you like. The spread is just a blank slate. Then I decided that I'm going to color with my Pit Brush pen. Now it went on in a very nice color, but it did seem over time to kind of fade out a little bit, got more muted. It didn't go through right away, but it did kind of over time. So that's something you would watch, and if this really bothers you, that if it bleeds through at all, you may want to not use that product. So this rose stencil is a Crafter's Workshop stencil, and I'm just using a couple of my Distress inks, Fired Brick and Fossilized Amber, I believe. And I'm just stenciling one big rose in the middle of the monthly spread. I'm not going to do much more beyond this on the monthly spread. I don't spend a lot of time here, and I wanted to spend more of my decorating time doing other things. But I did grab the Secura Jelly Roll and just adding a little bit of shimmer and shine to this. Off camera, I go and I add my stamps for recycling and garbage. I write in my appointments and special occasions and birthdays on here. So now I'm getting ready to do the bookmarks in here, and I had so much fun doing this. And it occurs to me this might be something that people may want to purchase if they have a word of the year. If you're interested in something like that, if you think that would be a good thing, let me know. That might be something that I can get into making for people and selling. So here I'm using the brayer, and I'm starting with the base color. It's kind of the peachy tones. And then I'm going to alter the colors that I use. Some of the pages are more kind of burgundy, some are more orange, and then I can add a top layer to that is more in keeping with whatever's on the spread. So here I have the spreads done, so I can really coordinate these to what's there. You just saw me peeking in and checking, okay, how many have the dark red, how many have this? And with the brayering, it's important that you go up and down, side to side, back and forth, and you get lots of different patterns and interest in there. Now some of that got a little bit dark, so I'm just adding some white, and you basically just keep going till you like what you see. Now some of the paints that I'm using are the metallic or pearlized Martha Stewart paints, and as always the links to these products are in the description box. I'm just adding a little bit of bronze, which gives the shimmer, but it also adds a little bit of that orangey tone to it without being too much in your face orangey. So I've separated these two because I have two that are a little bit more burgundy or reddish, and I really want those to match the rest of the spread. Now, I'm not sure if I said it on this video, but on the back side of this, I am still brayering and I'm coloring it up. But what I use this for is I brainstorm things that I may do within YouTube. Some videos, upcoming videos, this is where my ideas go. And I find this is really important now since I've gotten to a smaller planner. There's not as much room to do that brainstorming, and so I can put it on here. And the nice part is I keep these, put the discs in, and I have a kind of permanent record of it. Speaking of ideas for my YouTube channels and series, if you have any ideas or something that you'd like to see specifically, please put it in the comment section. You know, if it is within my ability to do, I will definitely do it. I want videos that people want to see. So on the front of these, I am going to just add some pattern. And so I'm stenciling. And you can see this was the spread that had this same pattern. So I'm coordinating the pattern. So stencil's not big enough, just move it and do it again. It's not a perfect match, and you know what, quite honestly, it doesn't really show. So I'm loving how that matches. That's kind of a brocade, if that's the word. Look, old, rich fabric. So what you see here, this is cut on vinyl. My friend Yvonne cut this with her Cricut. You can cut with a silhouette, and I'm just using different colors of paints that are in the background, and I'm just layering these flowers. So this is just basically a homemade stencil. And I'm using different colors and different concentrations and just layering these. And you know, this is really the first time that I've ever used this stencil since she's cut it for me, which is over a year. So it felt really good to dig it out and use my stash. Sometimes layering the same stencil with it different colors gives a really nice effect. And if you haven't done that, give it a try. You're going to like the results. So this is the one with the heart, and you know, predictably I'm just stenciling in hearts. And again, I'm going to do them in different colors. And I just mask off ones around it that I don't want. So again, look at your stencils. Are there bits and pieces of each one that you can use in somewhat a different way than what you have used? And with most of these, you're seeing that I'm adding white just to build up that contrast and to tie in with the page. The page is white, so there is white on that. Each of these, it's like doing a background for an ATC or an iCAD or a mini art journal page. I absolutely love it. And you could actually turn these into like artist trading cards or iCads. So this is the Dilutions stamp from the set, and I'm just stamping with white acrylic paint. I'm applying it with a cut and dry foam, but you can use a makeup sponge as well. I just kind of use both of those things kind of interchangeably, kind of trying to match this. Now this has some more orange in there, so I'm grabbing my Dilutions Postbox Red, and that's just the right color. Don't be afraid to mix and match your acrylics. So, you know, go with the color. I have Americana paint, I have my Dilutions, I have Liquitex, Artist Loft. You know, each one has a little bit different properties, and sometimes you have to use them a little bit differently. But it all works. Now here you can't see a whole lot of this. In real life you can see that shimmer and shine, and it just makes it tie in. So with a lot of these, you see me doing a lot of layering, and you can see how much interest that adds. So again, my goal was to, while this is kind of a series and it follows kind of a color theme and regular theme, I also want to make them just each a little bit different. So this was a lattice or inverted circle, I think. But I have a couple stencils that are similar to this, and I'll put links to them. This one I bought at the dollar store. So then I have these I think they're worn letters, and I bought these from Michael's, but I know that Tim Holtz has a series, a set. His was more money than what I paid. However, he also has small letters with it. But I love these bold letters that you get, and it's kind of what I've done with this series, is just use these bold letters and put one word on each one. That may evolve over time. I may run out of words, but I just kind of have a brainstorm list of inspirational words that I'm going to potentially use. Now in the first series, I kind of altered these and joggered them so they were kind of flowy and not perfectly straight. For whatever reason, I decided that these two were going to be perfectly straight. Sometimes it's easier to build in, make it deliberately not straight, and then if it's off a little bit, it's not going to matter. So here's where I kind of think, oh, yeah, I was offsetting these. So I just placed them, and I pressed them onto the acrylic block. This is the Dilutions one, which I only got because it was a really good deal. But it is a bigger block, and I do like it for that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the bigger block, and I'd have to do this in smaller bits and pieces. So I'm kind of looking at the planner the weekly spreads, and just trying to pick a word that goes with the quote or the feel of the page. And you know, there are words that are going to go in everything, and then there are more words like love on that family one that work just perfectly. So if your word is longer, do what you can. If you're repeating, like this is the word believe, so I need the E again, so I do the first 4 letters, and you see me cleaning them in between, and then placing them again. Here I've had to do it go back 3 times because I have 3 E's. And I'm spraying them with my Murphy's Oil soap. And just to make them stand out, I am edging these little guys with some black acrylic paint. And that just kind of gives it a border and frames them. And just, I think it just really bumps it up and makes them look so much nicer. And there is all of them. I absolutely love them. Okay, so we are done. So we're just going to do a flip through so you can see how everything works together. Didn't spend a lot of time on the monthly page other than using a stencil that I didn't have, but I can always go back and add to this should I wish to. Totally love using the coloring books in there. You know, this is the Zenspiration one, but using that, having cut out and just pop of color and framing your pages, I really like that. And I just, you know, I'm totally in love with these bookmarks. I just love putting them together, and I love how they look, and I love how they feel, and you know, was able to pull out the colors here and have the whole theme. So again, I'm going to be brainstorming ideas for my YouTube channel and for my blog. So if you have any ideas, put them in the comment section and I will get back to you. So this one, I absolutely love how this turned out. It just looks like rich, luxurious fabric. It's kind of really tied together, the gold and
the burgundy. It's just very, very rich. So I'm loving that. This one's kind of lighthearted and whimsical. I, you know, kind of like the flow, and I like first time I've ever used that was cut out in there. I outlined a lot of these with my Sakura Jelly Roll pens. This one, again, you know, I like how the loop to loop to loop here kind of coordinates with the loops here in there. The black. And another very rich page in here. I did notice, just warning, after the fact, there's, I don't know if you can see, you can't quite see, but it did kind of bleed through a little bit, those pens. So thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you next month.